Everyone see my screen, yeah? Okay.
Yes.
All right, then we can already get started. Thean, do you want to press the live stream button?
Live stream button is pressed.
Perfect. Okay, well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we're celebrating the official launch of the first version of the Kibo app. And as part of that, we have decided to host a little event entitled How to Navigate Your Career in 2020. We've all seen that the pandemic has obviously been a bit of a challenge, especially for students and soon to be graduates. The job market has become a lot more difficult, and because of that, we also invited two Amazon recruiters and our personal advisor, Dorota, who has 10 plus years of experience in career coaching, to host a panel discussion and then at the end answer some of your questions in a Q&A. So to start off with, we are going to do a little bit of housekeeping just to make sure that everything runs smoothly today. Everyone has a great event and we get the maximum value out of it. So first of all, I would ask everyone to please stay on mute unless we personally request you to unmute yourself. Then a bit for the agenda. So first, we're going to have 40 minutes of a panel discussion. We selected 8 pre-selected questions, which we'll be asking both Dorota and Sylvia and Francisca. We have also already allocated a time slot for Q&A at the end. So in between, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. We'll try to integrate them, and if not, then I have Thean on the side who is going to select and curate all the questions at the end to make sure that everyone gets the answer they look for. Then I also have to mention that this event is being live streamed both to YouTube and it's being recorded. So as you maybe have seen in the disclaimer, by joining the event, you also give your permission that this is the case. Great. Then I would also like to thank our collaborators. So that's the Erasmus Tech Community, Amazon, of course, and Maastricht Entrepreneurship Club. By the way, they have another event coming up with what is dubbed the French Bill Gates, called Alexandre Mars, on the 9th of November at 6 o'clock. So if you have any time then, feel free to tune in for that as well. And then, of course, the company of Dorota, which is Do So Coaching and Counseling. So thank you all so much for helping us market this event and helping us with the questions as well. So first, I'd like to introduce myself. I'll be your host for this afternoon. My name is Ronan Liedmeyer, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Kibo. I'm a 3-time startup founder, so Kibo now is my 3rd startup already. I'm responsible for all external communications and marketing, business development at Kibo. So anything that has to do with spreading the word, talking to clients, etc., all goes through me. I'm also doing a part-time degree in career counseling at the moment. So in a couple of days, I'll be a certified career coach myself, which is very exciting. And I also did my bachelor in international business at Maastricht University together with my co-founders, Robin and Ramses, who are also here with us, amongst with the rest of the Kibo team. So very happy to have everyone here and hoping we have a great event today. Then, of course, I have to also introduce Kibo, which is the main reason we're all here today. And Kibo is a digital career coach, as some of you may know. Kibo uses fun games and exercises to help you progress in your career, helps you overcome psychological barriers, and hopefully helps you on the way to a career that really, really makes you happy. Because let's be honest, we spend most of the time of our lives working, and that time should be spent on doing something that we really do care about. Kibo will therefore act as a lifelong companion that will be with you every step of the way, celebrate the small and major milestones of your career, and just in general be your little career cheerleader. And of course, you might be wondering, where does Kibo get all its knowledge from? In fact, we partnered with Stanford research on this part, so all the algorithms are fed by multiple years of validated research, and you can be sure that Kibo knows what it's talking about. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our three guests today. So first, Franziska, she's going to introduce herself now.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Hi, my name is Franziska. You can also call me Franzi if you want. I work for Amazon. So I joined Amazon back in 2017, so 3.5 years ago. Back then, I was exactly in the same situation than you are right now. So I was also looking for a job. And when I got the job opportunity to join Amazon, I was obviously quite happy with that. Since then, I'm working in the campus recruitment team for the German market for Amazon operations, meaning that we're hiring interns and also graduates into our warehouses, sort centers, and delivery stations across Germany. And yeah, since beginning of this year, I was able to take over people management. That means I'm leading a small team in the German market, which is quite a cool opportunity. And yeah, I have a bachelor's degree in business administration, and then I've done my master's in HR afterwards.
Great, fantastic. Thank you, Franziska. Next up, we have Dorota.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Dorota. I'm actually originally from Poland. I actually always start my introduction with saying that. Apparently, very important part for me. I moved to the Netherlands 16 years ago for love, for a Dutch guy, and I have 20 years of professional experience. And the first 10 years I spent actually in a corporate setting. And then after 10 years, I have this big wake-up call moment, and when I decided I'm going to do something completely different and follow my passion, also do something I truly believed, and changed from internal auditor and finance lady into a completely different field of helping people find their meaningful career. And I've been doing it for the past 10 years. I've coached hundreds of professionals, mainly internationals, due to the fact that I'm not a native Dutch person living in the Netherlands. I focus on career coaching. I also focus on mainly on career transition, but also on how to navigate your job search, how to actually get a job that you want to be getting, also on talent development. And the last year, I gathered, the knowledge that I was experiencing and the work with my clients I was experiencing for the last 10 years, and I bundled it in a book, Career Jump, that I published last year. And because my whole story of transition started actually with actually pretty traumatic delivery, I decided that all the revenues, big part of the revenues, actually go to women in resource poor countries and supporting their delivery so they can survive. Thank you.
Great, thanks a lot, Dorota. Okay, then last but definitely not least, Sylvia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sylvia. I hope you can all hear me well. So I'm also, like Franzi, working for Amazon. I joined Amazon almost 5 years ago. It's a big milestone internally when we hit the 5 or 10 years. So I'm very proud of this one, hitting it in January. I joined as a complete career change. So actually, I was originally in hospitality and decided to change completely. I wanted to go into a more people-focused environment, and actually joined Amazon as a person with zero recruitment experience. So hence why my recruitment experience is exclusively with Amazon. I'm also in the same team as Franzi, so specifically focusing around internship and graduate hiring for Amazon operations. So recently transitioned into a program manager role. So looking at a lot of elements such as our learning within the team, and actually helped build our virtual internship program that happened over the summer. So something I'm particularly proud of. And yeah, in terms of my background, didn't start with my nationality, but we'll definitely mention it, as I do sound very American, but I am Italian. I did do a double bachelor's degree in business administration frustration with Spanish, but grew up in Germany. So this is my very international background, very happy with it, very proud of it. And I'm glad to see also a lot of very different nationalities across the participants. So really keen to hear from you guys as well. So very excited to be here.
Great, thank you so much, Sylvia. So yeah, now we've made the introduction to everyone in the panel. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for now, because now we are going to start with the first couple of questions that that we've curated. So actually, the very first question I want to ask everyone, and I think this applies to both Dorota and Sylvia and Francie. How do you think the pandemic has actually changed the job market throughout the last couple of months?
Shall I start?
Go first.
Yeah, I think you know, if you look, first of all, it's changed it in a couple of different ways. So first of all, it actually increased the distance of actually getting a job, because as the things went online and a lot of interviews went online due to the pandemic crisis. So that's the first thing. But second thing was that there actually came a lot of freezes in recruitment. That, of course, it's not true for all the sectors. I'm sure the Amazon is actually could be actually experiencing something completely opposite. But then I think it's important to look across what's going on across different sectors. So if you look like a sector as leisure, hospitality, it's you know, the recruitment has you know, was severely impacted in those industries. Some industries were not that impacted. If you look at, for example, production, and others and other industries actually skyrocketed. If you look at the whole e-commerce industry. And at the same time, I think what we are seeing also overall, that the certain job types are getting more and more attention. All, you know, jobs are related to the more of a hard skills, IT related to artificial intelligence, and also you know, highly skilled workforce. So that's, you know, what I've noticed from my perspective.
Yeah, I guess from I'll continue from an Amazon perspective. We definitely at first definitely saw the difference. So a lot of our processes were already very much online. So a lot of our interviewing was happening online already. So that didn't really change much, but we did have to adapt to a lot of things. And what I think Amazon does well is adapting quickly. So we took it on as not something that was going to, you know, change within a month. We were going to stay with it for a little bit, and as we've seen, we have no end date at the moment for this entire situation, so we just took it on board to actually make changes. So I know in our little world, when it comes to the obviously campus recruitment, we haven't actually canceled any roles. So anything that we had confirmed, so internships that were meant to be on site, we were able to switch them to virtual setups. Obviously not exactly what was promised to begin with, so we did have to make adaptations. So the program I referred to earlier, we had to actually create from scratch. We had never done a virtual internship like this before. We were always, you know, pestering our hiring teams that they need to be sitting in the same location as their interns, and here we are. They were across Europe having to manage people. So we had to adapt, and I think that's the biggest kind of learning for everyone, is having that flexibility to just kind of take it on, be open to the new challenge. And I think that allowed people to then take on kind of new areas that might not have been their kind of area of expertise, I would say.
Yes, I absolutely agree, and I think I can also give my take on it from a startup perspective. So yeah, I mean, we've been very active in this scene for the last couple of months, even before the pandemic. You know, like when we looked at hiring, we looked at basically anyone who was more or less in the same time zone as us. But I think what becomes a real opportunity here now is that even larger corporations from different countries are all hiring people who don't have to be there physically at this time. You know, if you look at Facebook, for example, they now allow their employees to work remotely. I think until this next summer or so. And there's a couple of companies who have done it indefinitely even. And I think in that sense, it really becomes like a big opportunity as well for people if they just look at it in a different sort of way. Yeah. But you also just mentioned the presence of hard skills. So the Rhoda, you said very much also looking at artificial intelligence, data science and the likes. What is, in your experience at the moment, the most sought after soft and hard skills that companies are looking for? First the perspective of the Rhoda, and then perhaps also what Amazon is looking for in that sense.
Yeah, so I'm, I mentioned more on the hard skills, and actually I've written an article a couple of weeks ago about the future-proof skills of, not even 2020 but 2021 and beyond. And then we see that all skills related to very strong analytical skills, but also connecting the dots, connecting the facts. Artificial intelligence on one hand, but on the other hand also the skills that could be more put in the soft skill set related to empathy and to our human nature, that actually artificial intelligence is not at least able to mimic, and it's not yet able to learn. So that's on one hand. But if you're looking at the soft skills, and also I think in the terms of what a pandemic has caused, and putting the whole workforce more on the online platform, is the skills such as looking at collaboration and independence and initiative, I think becoming more important. Of course they were always important, but if you are sitting at home and you are supposed to organize the job and the meeting yourself, I think employers, and that's something to check with the ladies from Amazon, is that also so looking at reliability, communication, commitment, initiative, and I think these soft skills are increasingly important now.
Yeah, I would say totally agree with what you're saying, Dorota. So for the majority of the roles that we're actually offering or hiring for, so like internships and graduates in very different departments across the Amazon operations world, of course, for certain roles, we have to look at a certain skill set. For instance, if you want to work in robotics or business intelligence, of course, you need to bring a certain skill set of, for instance, programming languages. But overall, I would say that also soft skills are super important, because we are offering graduates the opportunity to join as an area manager. That's the position that we mainly hire for after graduation, and that means that you will be looking after a team of associates, and that could be a team of 100. So that's actually quite a big team. So therefore, in this certain role, the soft skills are even more important, because what is very important is the ability to work in a team rather than being the lone wolf, I would say, and also the ability to earn trust of others. So now this is very different if you're working from home in a virtual space, or if you're on site leading your team. But I would say at the same time, earn trust is always one of the most important so-called leadership principles, as we call it at Amazon, and a super important soft skill overall that we're always looking after, no matter if we're hiring for a tech role or if we're hiring for a people manager role.
Great. Yeah. I think what's quite interesting is also what Rhoda mentioned, this this basically drive to initiate something, like the drive to do something new. And this is something I see quite frequently now, also with a lot of friends contacting me, asking how how we set up our business, and just in general what you can do on your own time right now. When you when you receive a CV from someone, what importance do you place on entrepreneurial experiences, or the initiative of having done something yourself without the direct payoff of getting money or the likes?
Yeah, so I think from our perspective, it's definitely something that we look at a lot. So not just kind of the entrepreneurial side, but also just what you've been involved in. So as much as internship experience is important, it's really all the how well-rounded you are, I would say. So the types of different experiences, whether you were part of, you know, I don't know, you were the team captain of your football team. That actually shows a lot of leadership experience. You don't really think about it that way, but you might motivate people. You know, you have to go in there with one goal, and there's, you know, 11 of you towards that same goal, and you try to motivate your teammates. So it shows a lot just with certain things like that. Also work that might not be related to what you're actually applying for. So things that are, for example, you were a waiter at your local bar. Actually, that shows that, you know, you had the time to go and split between your university or your student commitment, as well as wanting to earn your own money, for example. So you know, it's experience regardless if it's not in the field that you might be looking at. So it shows a lot of that. Definitely with the entrepreneurial experience is definitely a bonus. So I would say it does show a lot of drive. So even if it is, you know, obviously startups is a perfect example, but it could be even things like just deciding to join an online training course during this time. So I know a lot of my friends took the time just because they had more time on their hands to actually learn some new skills that had nothing to do with what they're doing, but they were just interested in that, and it shows a great initiative. So definitely not something that you should hold back on, for sure.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Dorota, I think I talked to you earlier about this as well when we had our first conversation, but I just wanted to bring it up again because obviously right now we're talking a lot about what if you're already in the situation where you're looking for a job, you know, you already know kind of what you want to do, but even though the job market has become a lot more difficult and subjectively there's fewer choices out there, there's still an abundance of different directions you can go into. Especially if you have a business degree or a degree in the social sciences, there's so many different choices that you can make. Robin actually like used this great example. If you go into a store and you see two washing machines, you know exactly what features one has and what features the other has, and it's easy to compare. But for us, you know, like when we enter the job world, we see a store with hundreds and thousands of different washing machines, and it becomes very difficult. So if you're in that position and you're just starting out, you have your degree, or you're still studying, and you have absolutely no idea where to go, what are the first steps that you can take towards finding out what you actually want to do or what you want to start with?
Yeah, so yeah, that's a really great and I think very important question. And I think if much more people, including myself, would ask those questions in the beginning of their career, then they would not be coming to my practice 20 or 10 years later. And knowing that also, I've checked. I was also preparing for our session today, and I checked some research. And actually, I found out that only 5% of people are choosing their first job and then later on committing and staying in the same path. So that's the first thing. And the second thing was, that actually we on average change our job 7 times. So the first thing is, even if you don't know at the moment, what to choose, and you still feel the pressure, I have to choose because I just want to earn money, pay off my student loans, I just want to get starting. The good news is, first of all, that's not going to be for sure your last job, so you can change. And it's a normal thing to change, especially now when there's so much, things are available. So that's the first thing, to just, get off the pressure, because there's also a lot of pressure within, the students and young people. Oh, I have to now first choose this perfect job. And the second thing, I'm a coach. I always say, the awareness really pays off at the end. So even if you have some time and you can read a book about how to choose a career, or you can have a friend who is a coach, or you just want to hire a professional coach who is going to walk with you and ask you a couple of questions. And the 3 most important question is, like I mentioned in our call, is the first of all, what are your values and your work values? So what are the things that are really truly important to you? Do you like freedom, adventure, or you love stability and structure? Because that will very much, the choices that are coming from that could be very different. That's the first thing. The second, of looking at your talents and your skills. So what are you really good at and better than the others, but also that you enjoy doing. So the talents that you have, and then the talents that really give you positive energy, the second thing. And the third thing is, so however cliche it sounds, is that you choose it not only with your reason and what your parents are telling you and what your friends are telling you, but also something you have a passion for, and something you would love to do.
Great, thank you. I'm actually quite curious how this translates into a corporate environment. So, like obviously a lot of people assume that once you start working for a company like Amazon, you know what to do. But in fact, there's a lot of different programs like I think LinkedIn has the business leadership program where you also experiment a lot. What are the kind of views on a corporate level on people who come in and are not exactly sure yet where they fit in? What opportunities does Amazon provide, for example?
I can take that one. Actually, like job rotation is one of the things that Amazon definitely offers. So a lot of graduates come in, start, for instance, in operations as a leader, do that job for a year or two, and then they experience, oh, there is another really interesting team that I would love to join. So it's very natural at Amazon, actually, that you do job rotation. And this is also what our company is actually encouraging. And this is one of the things that I really enjoy in the company. I'm a recruiter now. I still love my job, but maybe in 5 years, I decide I want to become a program manager like Sylvia, or I want to work in an entire different team. So I have the opportunity, because I have the opportunity to talk to other people, to talk to other teams, to check out jobs that are available on the Amazon Inside homepage. So that means the internal job portal. So there are lots of opportunities. So therefore, I would always encourage you, apply for a job if that interests you, if you think that's the right fit. Give it a go, talk to the people during the interview, try to really gather as much information as you can, because especially now in times where you're not able to go on site to meet people, because we've also changed the entire virtual interview process. So definitely try to find out as much information as you can, and then also match it to yourself, to your imagination, how your job should look like, what you want to do. And even though after a year or two you want to do something else, there are like loads of opportunities, and sometimes even jobs or teams that don't exist today, you will be able to join in the future, because we don't know what the future brings, basically, and we don't know what great new teams Amazon is going to create in the future.
Great, thank you. Now I want to give the conversation a slightly different direction, because we've talked a lot about the actual job search and what to do. Like if you're not sure on which direction to take, but there's also a whole other level, and this is something that now a lot of major influencers talk about, and that's actually the impact of social media on our perception of what an ideal career looks like. So we also have that, of course, in the scope of relationships, in the scope of friendships. There is this ideal picture being painted, which most of the time you cannot live up to. And I believe in the job world, that's also very much the case. So take on an entrepreneur, for example. The only thing you see of entrepreneurs online is like, they drive Ferraris after they sell their companies, and it doesn't really show the hardship of it. It doesn't show the nice little things that come along with it. I already gave my take on it a little bit. How do you see the impact of social media on the perception of a career? And do you also notice it when you have candidates coming in or clients coming in with you?
Shall I start?
Yeah, sure.
So I think it's a great point. What you mentioned is that the people perceive something and they are not being aware of what is behind that. So, if you like, I'm doing my I have my career coaching practice now, for 10 years, and it's going great. But in the beginning, it was definitely not like that. It was a lot of, sweat and tears and crying and almost saying, okay, I just quit and I go back to a normal job because that's not working. So, whenever you are, and then again, going with, if you really have passion for something, then you are prepared to go much further and really try it one more time. But having said that, with every job there, with all the great things, that comes also certain pain and a sacrifice that you must be willing, to take. So that's, and the social media is, of course, offering us this, sort of ideal picture. At the same time, what can be ideal for one person, so what is ideal for me, that I love my flexibility and I love that I'm contributing, but I'm also very often alone, is not an ideal job for someone else who, loves to being in a big corporation, for example, like Amazon or any other, where and that's something that I also, sometimes miss, is having this feeling of we are in this, together as a team. So I think it all starts with awareness, what I just mentioned. What are the important elements for me? Am I more of a wolf type, a loner, and I want to conquer the world, an entrepreneur, or am I, feeling much more, much better in a setup corporate setting, or more in the NGO? So first start with awareness. What are the elements that I want, and build from that, and know that there are ideal jobs for for certain people, and there's no ideal job for everyone. And social media will always be selling us a certain pictures, because that's how they operate. But social media offers also a lot of great insight in the whole job market, right? I love LinkedIn. I love how actually LinkedIn is actually helping to navigate the whole market, but we need to just keep an awareness that is just a certain perception, not a reality always.
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree with what you're saying, Dorota. So don't always believe on what Instagram and co are telling you, basically. But I mean, I would say there are definitely benefits of using it. For instance, one of the companies I did an internship for, doing like an Insta takeover, where for a week, someone in the company would have the chance to take the followers through his or her own work week, basically showing them what they're doing, what the company is all about, what their job is all about. I think this is definitely a big benefit, because 10 years back, we would have never imagined that something like this would exist. And you can really see people working for the company. So you can see faces, you can see what they're doing. Where else on an Amazon, or on not an Amazon, but a normal career page, you won't be able to really learn about what others are doing. This is definitely benefit, but you need to find out for yourself what you want to do, where are your strengths, what kind of company do you want to join after your graduation. So therefore, I think that social media is definitely a benefit. Use it, but yeah, as Dorota said, don't let yourself influence by it. And also, like, not everyone is actually finding a job right after graduation. It is also taking some people weeks and months until they find the perfect job. And I would also not let myself scare by it, basically. So really take your time in order to find the right job for yourself. And if it takes a month longer, then it's totally fine.
Great, thank you. I want to just go one more step into this mental health aspect, because obviously it's a very important aspect at the moment, especially with the pandemic going on. We've also seen that career anxiety rates have increased significantly in the past years, but now have accelerated even more with the coming of the pandemic. What are some of the methods that students could use to mitigate this anxiety, and what would you tell students from a corporate perspective are the positive outlooks that the future holds in terms of the job market?
Guess that was my question.
Oh, sure, as you wish.
That's fine. I move ahead, and then you can move forward. Basically, don't be scared. For instance, Amazon is still hiring. So as I was just saying, it might take a little bit longer until you find the perfect role. But really look out for companies that are still hiring. There are lots of them, and not only Amazon is the only company still hiring. Maybe take the opportunity if you're still enrolled in studies, if you still have a semester or two until you finish. Really do internships, go out, try to gain practical experience, because then you have your first connections into a company already. And Amazon is actually doing it a lot. We're actually converting a lot of our successful interns into full-time positions after graduation. So you will have definitely a really good opportunity if you come in as an intern. If it's only 3 or 4 months, but you will be able to really network and to show that you're the right fit for the company, and then you will directly have your graduate role, and you can go back to your studies. So there are lots of opportunities. But sorry, Sylvia, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, I was just going to say, utilize the advantage of the fact that everyone is now online. So as you can see, we're all working from home. You're in my kitchen at the moment, but you can easily connect over, whether it is LinkedIn, whether it's through Zoom, have those conversations. So even if it is, for example, as Dorota said, if you are looking for someone that could be, for example, a coach, it's so easy to find someone that you can speak to that isn't based where you are. If you want some advice, I've had classmates of mine that have seen that I'm a recruiter within Amazon and have reached out and said, you know what, I'm looking for a job in Europe. I'm in the US. Do you have any tips? And yeah, we haven't spoken in 10 years, but of course, no one's going to stop, not respond to these messages. So, people are more or less busy, but it's such an easy way to connect. And the worst thing that can happen is maybe that person just doesn't respond to you, and you move on, there's another person. So really utilize, as much as obviously we were saying social media can have its pluses, pros and cons. That is something that the world has become a lot smaller in that, and that we are really connected. So when you are maybe struggling with certain things, I think as much as we do a lot on our laptops, on our phones now, unfortunately probably that might be a disadvantage of it, but it also gives you a chance to really explore. And whether that means you might be interested in a certain career path, find out someone that might be in that, and just reach out to them and see. So whether that is through your connections, or you see that some of your classmates are connected to someone. So we actually came through this event through Valeria, because Valeria did an internship with us. So the world is really small. So utilize those advantages, I would say, because it does really help to make those human connections even virtually.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great point, and also something Sylvia mentioned, and also you, Ronan, mentioned a couple of questions ago, is actually looking at something, objectively a bad thing, right? So COVID is not a good thing, but you can still look at a bad thing from a positive angle or from a negative angle. And even if something so terrible as the whole Corona crisis, look for the gifts and opportunities within that situation. And also, definitely the whole Corona story just put our mind, I think, a global mind, in sort of a threat state. We are feeling very much, in the threat situation. And when our brain goes in the threat situation, then we are stopped being actually creative, and our mental health, what you mentioned, our mental health deteriorates. Plus the fact that we are getting isolated and being at home and not making these human connections in person is definitely adding to the anxiety level. So what both Sylvia and Francisca mentioned, however, there are positive and negative parts of sides of social media. Reaching out and making those human connections is really important, because then what puts our brain again in a positive towards state, from where our creativity can flow. But also very simple things like being in nature, doing sport, doing meditation, connecting with the others. These are all the tools that we can do no matter what, and even with very limited time, that will put our brain in a positive state. So I would suggest doing those as well.
Yeah, that's really great to hear, and I definitely agree with that and also resonate with it. Now, both to you, Sylvia and Franziska, I have very often heard friends, talking about trying to contact recruiters and saying that it's very difficult to get in touch sometimes because, of course, your LinkedIn and your mailboxes are overflowing with people wanting to get jobs. What is the best way to capture your attention? How do you stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, so I think first of all, just to understand kind of the size that we are. So as much as you said, I sometimes get contacted on LinkedIn with people trying to connect with me, and they say, oh, I'm looking for, or I saw you have a job opening in XYZ in this place. And it already shows me that you haven't even gone through my profile because I don't actually recruit for that. And so already I'm just put off because I don't know how to help them. Amazon is so huge and we are split into different areas that I know from the outside, you see Amazon and you're probably thinking, I saw this job, you're a recruiter, you can help me. But unfortunately, it's not as simple as that. So what I would say is definitely when it comes to, if you do your research and whether it's Amazon or any other company, to look at the specific job, apply to the jobs. There's nothing wrong with applying for the jobs. I know a lot of the time there are specifically students or certain candidates that, feel like they don't check all the boxes and therefore they don't apply. Apply anyway. The worst thing that can happen is you get rejected for the role, but you could be moved forward and actually have a conversation with the recruiter or whoever is kind of the next step in the process. So I would definitely recommend that. Do have a look at the job description. Sometimes they can be quite vague, but when it comes to kind of the basic qualifications that come out, those tend to be quite clear on what we do look for. Again, Amazon or other companies, that section is probably the one that's most clear around, the types of degrees, whether you need to be able to work in that country, which obviously now there's a flexibility around as well. So to consider that, if there are, language restrictions, if there's technical skills that are needed, so back to kind of the hard skills that might be necessary. So definitely look at that. And the reason I'm saying that is because it'll go straight to that recruiter. We have an internal system, and we have thousands of recruiters that work for Amazon across the globe. And so it will actually go to the relevant person. So when, for example, Franzi is saying she works for the Germany campus recruitment team in Amazon operations, that's a team of multiple recruiters. So although you apply for a role that you think, okay, is Germany, it's within Amazon operations, it probably won't fall with Franzi if you apply, so it's very hard for you from the outside to understand how it works. So that being said, do reach out if you have concrete questions. So, if there are certain things that say, are there certain elements about my CV that I should include, or do I need to put in a cover letter? If you have concrete questions like that, we might be a bit slow in responding. As you said, we do get a lot of messages like this, but it's something that we can support with. And it's not something necessarily related to a specific role because we know what we're looking for when it comes to general applications, what we're looking for within Amazon. So that would be my biggest advice, just because we do tend to get a lot of just really specific around a job. And if I don't know anything about the job, I'm more likely not to respond or not to respond positively in the sense that I don't know how to help you. So that would be kind of my overall 2 cents on that one.
Maybe just to add that we also do offer now in COVID times a lot of online events. So for you, it's more than easy actually to sign up for those events and to just see what we're talking about, what kind of roles we can offer you if those are the type of roles that you're looking after. And then you can ask questions during these events, of course, because then you will directly speak to the relevant recruiters. You will usually also speak to someone from the business. So these are really cool chances for you to get in touch with the company by signing up for online events. And Amazon is not the only company that are doing a lot of online events at the moment. So definitely keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah, if I can just add one thing to that, and also based on what you both said, is about showing you're able to make an extra effort. And I was shocked a couple of years ago. I actually made a small recruitment for my own company for an internship position, and I was shocked to get 50 CVs. And there were only 3 CVs of 3 people who made an effort, who actually went and checked my website. And they, sent me a very nice cover letter on how they could see, themselves helping me in my company. And there were 47 CVs. They said, okay, I'm a great team player and I have experience with this and that. And it was not at all relevant to what I was asking. So, I would say just make an effort to check what is really job about, the company is about, and make an effort to adapting your cover letter and your CV to the job.
Yeah, I would say just on that note, it's really funny when we used to do big events at universities. I think the worst question we would receive is, what do you have to offer me? And I just thought, well, I don't know who you are, so I don't have anything to offer you right now. So I'm not interested in giving you a job. You're probably interested in getting a job. So come in asking what you're looking for. And especially with companies, big corporations like Amazon, there's probably something for you, whether it's a job I'm recruiting for or another colleague is, there's probably going to be something, but you can't expect us to do the work for you. There needs to be some initiative from your side to understand, what am I looking for? What are my skill sets? Again, what am I passionate about? What do I want to go into? And then we can work off of that. But not knowing anything about you, it's very hard to then say, well, I have all these jobs. I just don't know whether you'd be interested or you would be the right fit for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I can also share some anecdotes from our recent hiring process, because we just hired our first full-time employee, and during that process, we also got a lot of applications, and we had 3 very simple questions just in the beginning, just to get a feel for the company atmosphere and the likes. And that's all. Those 3 questions, all we wanted to see was that you did your research on the company, you more or less fit with the type of person that we're looking for, and then you would already get your first interview, granted that your technical skill sets lived up to the billing. And what I saw was that, shockingly, more than 50% of the people would just write 1 or 2 word answers for these questions. And these might be the most qualified candidates ever, but in our eyes, they immediately got disqualified because they just didn't put in an effort. And I think that's quite a valuable lesson to take away, because I see a lot of people right now, they have their CVs ready, they have their automated one-liner or short introduction about themselves. And they just send that out in masses. They send out hundreds, thousands of these applications, hoping that one will come back positive. But really, if you put a bit of effort into it, you do your research on it, you maybe connect with another intern who used to who was part of that company before, or you try to connect with them in some sort of other way. You maybe even provide value for them for free for a certain period of time. I don't know, I saw that there's this thing on your website which could use some UX improvements. I can suggest this or this, really just trying to put yourself out there and provide that extra little bit of value. Then immediately that is a person that we're also a lot more interested in. So I'm sure you've also seen it from Amazon and from your perspective, Dorota. But that is for sure.
Definitely, and that goes about this soft skills that we were talking about initiative, taking this extra mile, being prepared, reliable, and trustworthy at the end.
Absolutely. Okay. There is one more question that I had written down. I mean, we've covered pretty much all of it already, but maybe just as a quick summary, because probably a lot of people are actually interested in Amazon, considering that it was one of our main messages out there. So I'm a student right now and I'm interested in Amazon operations. How do I get a job? What should my CV look like? And how do I optimize my chances?
Yeah, so I guess there's different factors. So first of all, if you are applying for an internship role or full-time role, obviously we do have different types of opportunities there. First kind of keynote, and I can put it in the chat box if you guys want, is we do have a career site called Amazon.jobs. And basically we do have a hashtag that takes you straight to the roles. So there are thousands and thousands of roles there, and you probably get lost and spend hours trying to find the relevant ones. But with the hashtag EU intern hiring, you'll find all of our internship roles, and EU grad hiring will take you to the graduate roles. So that's just to begin with, to see what is out there, what we advertise. The other part around kind of what we look for in CVs or kind of some tips. So we're a company that doesn't ask for cover letters, so no need to write one. I will be honest, we won't read it. So no need for you to spend time on it. We do focus a lot more around your CV. And that being said, we do spend very little time on the CV as well. So we prefer to kind of check the basics and then move you forward, so we actually get a chance to hear from you and talk to you. So a key thing around CVs is the obvious things about, you know, what always marvels me is the fact that some people forget to put their mother tongue in their CV. So, you know, do put down all the information and put it in a logical order. So, you know, obviously your education will be probably the most important thing for you because you're working towards a degree or you've just completed your degree. Do make sure you put the dates there. So if you are still expected to graduate, what your expected graduation date is, or if you have graduated, simply month and year. We're not looking for too much specifics, but just to understand where you are in your university career. Obviously, as I mentioned, any of the experience that you have, whether it is relevant to the role or not, add it in, because you probably don't have that much experience at this point to bring forward. So all of those experiences will be useful. And then once you work on your CV later down the line, you'll probably remove some things that you think, okay, this is no longer as relevant. But for the time being, put that all down on paper, and then you can see how long your CV ends up being. That includes all the kind of extracurricular activities, all the, you know, all the entrepreneurial stuff that you that we did mention before that you might have gotten involved in. We want to see that. We want to you know that about yourself. And then I would just say, as I mentioned, you know, the basic qualifications for all of the roles do show you, especially around the hard skills that we're looking for. With a lot of our roles, especially if they are based in our sites, so concretely within our warehouses and our different sites, we do ask for local language. So the countries where we do operate in, that will be something that we do request. If it's something that you aren't, first of all, you don't have that language skill, or you're not interested in you know, working in that language necessarily, then we do have a lot of corporate opportunities as well, more around the internship space. And that's where we also kind of diversify quite a bit in terms of going from HR internships all the way to a software development engineer. So we have kind of a full spectrum depending on your tech skills. But again, do your research, see again, if the values of Amazon relate to you. I think what always stands out for us, both for internship and graduate candidates, is really the ones that come in and will, I don't want to say quote, but will refer to our leadership principles, will refer to certain things that they've read about, whether it's about Jeff Bezos or an article or the latest thing that has come out. That just shows that you have a bit of interest in the company. You've done something above just, you know, reading the top line and knowing that Amazon is in e-commerce and basically sells everything. So just going a little bit further into it, the best is when I learned things new about Amazon through the interviews, because I didn't know there was a new initiative that came out that someone wrote an article about. And so the candidate shared that with me. So it really shows a lot when you bring something to the table about having done some research. We also provide a lot of information when it comes to our interviewing process and the kind of tools that are needed. So, you know, how to structure structure your interview responses, how to prepare for the interview. So as much as it's a silly thing to say, do read all the materials that are out there and that we do provide, because you'd be surprised how many people kind of take it for granted. And then they're called out around, well, actually, you know, they had very weak examples. They didn't actually go into the details, or they didn't exactly explain how they were involved in those examples shared. They were just too generic. So do kind of utilize what is out there. There's a lot of resources. I'm sure a lot of people have shared their experience about interviewing with Amazon as well online through different platforms. So definitely do take advantage of that. Don't know if Franzi, you have anything to add.
A lot of information already, Sylvia. I think you provided majority of it. Thanks so much. As Sylvia said, really do your homework, because if you're not prepared, if you're not well prepared, the interviewers will recognize and you will not get the job. So really ask yourself prior to the interview, do I want a job? Yes or no? If the answer is a no, why would you go to the interview? So definitely do the homework, be prepared, ask questions. I have so many interviews where candidates don't ask questions, and then I ask myself, okay, are you even interested? So really take the chance, if you're talking to someone from the company, to ask your questions, whether if it's more personal. I got a lot of questions around how my own Amazon journey actually went, what I love about a company, and I'm more than happy to share my own experience. And if you're talking to someone from the department you want to work in, definitely ask them questions about their daily work, about their job, and also the team you would be joining. So really show the interest and the passion for the company and the job. This is super important, on top of come prepared and do your homework.
Yeah, I always say, you know, like interviewing, it's actually like dating. So, you know, of course, you want to show yourself, you know, your best self, but you're also very much interested to check if the place and the job is actually something for you. So I think a lot of people who are, you know, looking for a job, and I think the more you want the job, the more sort of desperate you are and say, I don't care, I just take anything. But, you know, psychologically, if you are showing, I just take whatever, you become less attractive in the eye. So by actually staying critical and asking, you know, really well prepared and good question, you show, well, actually, I'm still checking if the place is for me and if the job is for me. And then you also raise, you know, the interest on the other side, and, you know, share extra maturity, and that you are serious, and therefore become more attractive in the eyes of the recruiters.
Great, thank you all so much. I think we can now wrap up our panel discussion with that question, and open the floor to some questions from the audience. Thean, are you there? Just okay, he might not be. So in that case, I would say let's get the questions in via the chat, and we'll take a look at them, and we'll try to answer as many as possible. So go ahead and shoot. Okay, so we have the first one here. Oh, well, we have a lot. Never mind. So the first one, is it possible to over-prepare for an interview?
I would say no. So the more passion I see during an interview, the more preparation I see during an interview, the better. So really, you cannot over prepare for an interview. It's rather a positive thing if you really show that you want that job and that you're the right that you are the right person for that job. So I would say clearly no. Not sure if Dorota or Sylvia have another opinion on that.
I would say it's around tailoring. So obviously you can prepare as much as possible, you can prepare examples, but then it's a conversation. So just because you want to share that example doesn't mean that it's relevant to what's being asked. So sometimes you can tell when candidates will just need to share something, and so they basically spill it all out, and you're like, that has nothing to do with what I asked you. So that puts it in a very awkward situation of, okay, that's great, but that's not what I was looking for. So also I understand that obviously nerves get in, but the idea behind it is really to have a conversation with you. So try to stick to, the questions that are being asked. You can obviously loop in the examples, your experience that you're looking for. And that really helps when you've prepared and you have different things to share, but do tailor it to what's being asked, and not just, I need to share my entire CV with you in the next 30 minutes, and therefore I'm just going to keep talking about my experience. So really try to do that. But absolutely, I don't think there's a thing as being over prepared, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's a really great point that you're mentioning is whatever you say, think how is it actually relevant to the job that I'm applying for? Because if it's not relevant, okay, some things maybe you can mention, but other than that, 95% of what you were saying should be relevant, and you can only know if you prepare for the interview. And especially with, I don't know if this question is being often asked at Amazon, but one of the opening questions of many recruiters is, so please tell me something about yourself, right? So that's really sounds like a very easy, innocent question, but I heard over and over from recruiters, that's really great testing question. So everything actually, what you say about yourself in that opening will actually say a lot about what kind of person you are, how you think. So prepare really well for, especially also for that question.
Yeah, especially when they give you the, tell me in a couple of minutes about yourself. And if you're going on for about 5 or 6 minutes, that's already a sign of, keep the time management. Obviously, the recruiter will interrupt you at some point, but it already shows, try, if it's meaning keep it brief, then think about that. And then you can always ask, oh, would you like more information about it? And then the recruiter will, or the person who's interviewing you will clarify. But it already shows, did you pay attention to all the elements of that question when it was asked to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, then we have the next question. That companies always promise to get back to a candidate in case there's any other potential matches, but in this case it never happens. Why does this happen, and how can people deal with this frustration that this error occurs?
I would say again, don't take it as granted that we will get back to you. Of course, we try our best to recycle you, and at Amazon we really do. So that means if I receive an application from a candidate who is overqualified for the role or underqualified, I will definitely inform the right recruiter of the role to let them know, hey, this profile could be interesting for you. So maybe you want to reach out. But of course, this takes a lot of time as well. So therefore, it's also on you, I would say, to look for other opportunities on, for instance, in our case, it will be Amazon.jobs, because maybe there's another job that I am not aware of, or another team that you would be interested in, but I just don't know the right recruiter, because as Sylvia said, we have not only 2 recruiters, but we have a few dozen. So definitely also up on you to keep an open eye actually on the homepage. And then if you find a suitable role, you are more than happy to still reach out to your recruiter contact and ask, hey, what do you think I'm a good fit for this role? And then the recruiter could still help you, and maybe also internally refer you to that recruiter. But definitely it's not only our job to recycle your profile, but I would say it's also on you to keep an eye on the homepage.
Yeah, absolutely. Then I have the next question is quite an interesting one. How would you react if a candidate would ask you for a part-time function or working fewer hours than was actually originally described in the job description?
Yeah, so I think it is something that we've had in the past as well, of candidates saying, for example, we've advertised an internship role, and actually the person is wanting a working student type role, so that you're working part-time and you're studying at the same time. I would say be honest right up front about it. Don't not apply for it because of that reason. So do still apply, and then have that conversation down the line. A lot of the roles can be done part-time and can be considered part-time, while others physically, just for the type of role, is just very hard. So if it's a type of shift worked, for example, doing part-time might be quite difficult. So that would be, depending on the role, is a conversation that we can absolutely have. So definitely do still apply, but then bring that up as something that you'd be interested in knowing at the beginning of the process, rather than leaving it all the way till the end and then deciding at the later stage. Yeah.
Then I have the next one. How do companies react when a person applies to several positions or internships within the same company, but then in different departments? Do you see them as being undecisive, or is it not really like a certain label attached to it?
I would say keep it to a certain number. You won't believe it, but I have seen people that apply to 600 roles. So then I need to search for my role, which takes actually quite a long time. And I have to be honest, I would never interview that candidate, because basically that shows to me the person does not know what he or she wants. So with a number that is still acceptable, I would say, in my opinion, try to really apply for 5, 6 roles. Maybe if you're interested in 7, okay, go for 7. But for instance, in our company, we have implemented actually first come first serve, so the recruiter who is actually screening your profile first and thinks that you are a fit for his or her role would move forward, and then that means that you're only in the process for one role at the same time. But of course, if we think, okay, you're a better fit for the second role, then we would definitely reach out to the relevant recruiter, and then you will be processed on that role. But meaning, don't apply to more than 6, 7 roles, because then this would rather show that you don't really know what you want to do. That's just my personal opinion on that.
Great. Okay, I'm gonna just go through the questions a little bit quicker, because we're getting a lot of them in, and I want to make sure that we cover most areas. So we had another question regarding what recruiters look for from an undergraduate in particular on their CV or an interview. I know we already talked about this quite a bit, but maybe you could just give me a very, very quick summary of it.
Yeah, so I guess it's not just the experience, because probably if you're undergraduate, you have your degree and that's about it, and your high school or school that you've done. So I would definitely say any extracurriculars, interest that you have. So not just saying, I love, I don't know, traveling. That doesn't bring anything. But, if you've done something, I don't know, an online course, or if you've done whatever it is, any of these extras. So if you're part of a student group, if you're part of a society, whatever it's called in different countries, add those things in. So any of these extracurriculars. And to be honest, if your CV is a page, it's absolutely fine. There's no harm in that. We aren't looking for extensive years of experience, but just put down the things that you have done, that you've participated in, and that you're able to also speak about. So if someone asks you on your CV, oh, I see that you speak French fluently, how did you learn French? And you don't actually speak French, chances are that interviewer might be French and decides to speak to you in that language. So I actually had that in my Amazon interview. I was interviewed in 3 out of 4 in German. So, you just need to be ready on the spot. And, if you do speak French, that's great. But if you don't, then you're caught out on things like that. So just, there's no minimum length or maximum length, but just put the stuff that you are happy to discuss in an interview.
Great. Yeah, sorry, I thought I was on mute. Then I have another quite interesting question. So we obviously see that in this pandemic, we don't just have students and recent graduates looking for jobs, but we also see a lot of layoffs being made in the higher age groups. So do recruiters filter people by age? So for example, is there a big difference between a 25-year-old and a 50-plus-year-old, or do you look at that in any sort of way?
Sorry, I see both Francie and I just shaking our heads like big no. So I think one key component we have with Amazon is around diversity and inclusion. And I know a lot of companies are focusing on that. We would like to get to a stage where a CV does not have any personal information. So no pictures, no names, no gender, no date of birth, none of that, because it's irrelevant. What might be more relevant is years of experience. So, for more senior roles, they will want to ask for X amount of years of experience because you will need to know certain things. So that is more relevant, but we will never, discriminate against age, discriminate against gender or other areas. Absolutely. So that isn't something that we even look in. And to be honest, as mentioned, a lot of the times I would say for maybe more senior roles, they'll spend a little bit more time on CVs, but I would say on an average, we probably spend about 15 to 20 seconds on a CV maximum and move past it. So we will not look at details like, I don't know, where you're based, your date of birth, things like that aren't even taken into consideration.
Yeah, no, that's really great to hear. Dorota, so I mean, one of your specialty fields is career change and career transformation. So if if an older person comes to you, or even just someone who has been in their career the entire time and they're looking to make a change, what would your advice be in these current times?
Yeah, so like we were saying, depending also what your personal situation is. Have you been laid off? Have you offered any severance package? How many weeks, months you have in order to find a new job? Were you actually happy with the job that you were? That's all the questions that we are starting first. To getting the answer to just to say, okay, so where are we going? With the job search. And actually, I always say to my client within, career transition, it's like whenever something happens, like you got a burnout or, you were fired. So it's just the moment when, you are in this train and the train is going somewhere, and then something happens and you get out of the train. And, you're at the station, and then now you're looking around and say, okay, which train do I want to go next? So of course, if you have a lot of pressure and say, okay, I have not the best financial situation, I need to find a job quick, then you are going to be less picky about choosing the next train. But if you have the possibility, to reflect on, so what has been my past experiences? What did I actually loved about my job? Which kind of people did I like? What's the experience that I, was thriving the most? And at the same time, what were the experience that I liked least? First to look at that, and then say, okay, and based I know that, to which direction do I want it to go? And again, I always say I never let my clients, go through my career coaching without us working on the values first, core values and work values. So you really need to know that before you actually make a lot of decisions in your life. And then again, looking at the talents, at the passions, and that in this whole ocean of different opportunities, you look at this ocean through these glasses. So so we are making certain glasses with certain filters, and through these filters you're looking at the different opportunities that out there, and then you're going to apply. Because I have also a lot of clients that come and say, Dorota, I don't care. I just want any job. Can be in finance, can be in marketing, can be on the communications. I'm smart. I can just do anything. But that's actually shooting yourself in the foot, because companies don't want to hire people who are good in everything. They just want to hire certain specialists. And of course, for certain roles, you need to have more of a general background. But you need to know what you stand for and what you're good at and what you want.
Great, thank you. Then I have the next question. So we emphasize a lot the importance of showing passion for the role or the company. So for Amazon in particular, Is this the most important factor, or is it more important to be the perfect match for the position that's advertised?
I would say both is very important, at least to me. So of course, if you're not the right fit for the role, if you don't bring the relevant skill set, if it's a really technical role, of course, we cannot consider you, even though if you're super motivated to do the job. But then I would rather say, okay, if you're interested to change your career entirely, I would rather look for a job where you bring the needed skill set, because as I said, in Amazon, we encourage you to really also look internally for jobs or teams. So that means start in a job that is kind of familiar to you, where you bring like at least 50% of the skill set that we're looking for. And if you get that job, you can still see in 2-3 years where your career is actually heading to. So therefore, take the opportunities that are offered to you within your internal career as well.
Mm.
Yeah, and just a small thing, a small thing to add. I always say my clients, I'm very often also preparing them for the interviews, and I say actually most of the questions, 90% of the questions from the recruiters, hiring managers, you can put in one of the 3 baskets, and they are all very 3 important. But they start with, can you do the job? The second, bucket is, will you love the job? And the third one is, will you fit our culture and company? And that's. They are just starting like that.
Yeah, great. Then I have another question, and this one's actually quite interesting for the Kibo algorithm as well, because it's something that we're working on. If you're interested in a lot of different areas, so for example, psychology, data science, maybe also law, then you're also interested in marine biology, like a broad list of different interests. How do you find a job that combines these different interests? Quite a challenging one, I imagine.
I was going to say that's a tough question. I guess it may be looking into what kind of companies would match. So whether it is at least one of those. So I would say something like, for example, if you're passionate about data science, you can obviously implement that in a lot of different types of industries. So then therefore it might be easier to match the skill sets with a type of industry. So maybe looking at it that way. So looking at, first of all, if one of your interests is very clearly linked to a specific type of industry, then looking into that and then finding a role that's relevant to it. It's not the easiest of things for sure, because sometimes your interests will lie in different areas. My other suggestion is, if you're still at that point in your career where you would like to experience and do internships, try the different fields. So go into an internship that might focus around one specific area and see if that's what you want to do, because sometimes what you learn at university might be very different to the real life role that you're actually put into, and you might love it, you might hate it, or you might say, this is actually not exactly what I feel enough passion about to actually pursue a career in. So if you definitely have the time and willingness to do it, definitely test it out through internships, because I think that's the best way to actually make a decision if the 2 areas are completely opposites, and it's very hard to find a matching job in both.
Yeah, and also a small thing, to add on then, there are 2 big, like types of big different types of people when you look at the professional field. So one are sort of scanners, people who are interested in multiple things, and it could be very, very different. And they are so-called generalists. And there are also divers, which are like specialists, which are like focused crazy about data science, or crazy about IT, or crazy about things. So actually for yourself, know what kind of person you are more. And then don't try to fit the other one. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think I can also add one part from my perspective to that, because I actually just recently had a conversation with someone who was exactly in this situation. She was very passionate about music, about data science, and wanted to see, is there any way to combine these different things? And I think very often what what we fail to see, or what we don't manage to see, is that in a lot of different fields, the jobs or like the interests that you want to combine, they do exist. So just as an example, in the music industry, if you're really into data science, there's a bunch of stuff that you can do in the music industry, analyzing data, working for a music tech company. Yeah, there definitely is an opportunity there. Then I have one specific question for Dorota. Dorota, when one spends years of their lives pursuing a degree, and then feels like maybe going into a different path, like, what are your thoughts on switching careers? So, for example, from finance to psychology or the likes, because often people realize this when they're in the middle of their degree, and then they're almost there, but they already know they want to go to a different path. So, what would someone do in that situation?
Yeah, I would say change. Yeah, I had exactly the same feeling when I started my studies, and I was in the first year of the Warsaw School of Economics, and I knew, no, that's not the right path, and still I persevered, and I went and continued. And however, I say at the same time, I do not, I don't have any regrets about that, because I wouldn't be in Netherlands, I wouldn't be married to my husband, I wouldn't have my kids, and so on. So it had to go this way. But at the end, I still switched, and I still switched to the first thing I thought I wanted to do. So you might, at the same time, just save yourself all the years of doing something that you say, that's not the right direction. But I know it's not an easy thing, and I know it can hurt, because when I was changing, after 10 years of being career in finance and then internal auditing, I was actually doing my last exam to be the certified internal auditor, and I passed 3 exams for which I was studying 2 years, and I had one last exam to pass. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Am I going to still, invest and pass this last exam, or am I saying, no, sorry, it has not worked for me, and I choose for something different? And with all the pain in my heart, and with ambition person that I am, I said, okay, sorry, I'm not going to pass the last exam, and I'm going to choose something different. And I was faced with a lot of people were not understanding where I'm coming from. People were not supportive. A lot of friends turned back, and they were not supportive of my decisions. So it can be hard, but I promise you, at least like from it was so much worth it.
Yeah, that's really nice to hear, and I think we've actually talked about this previously, Dorota and I, because this was also a very major component of what we were investigating for the Kibo app. Now I have one more question directed at the recruiters, and then I think we can slowly start wrapping it up. So what are you looking at in the first 10 to 14 seconds of looking at a CV? What stands out for you?
Did see that question, and I saw that there was quite some interest there. So I guess I'll start, as I did mention, that timing. So I think the main things we do look at are around the basic qualifications that I mentioned before. So what we look for, especially when it comes to internship and graduate roles, so we look at, when are you graduating? Maybe the degree you're graduating from, but that's less relevant actually. So even if you are studying economics or psychology or management, probably not something that we're going to really focus on. It's really around the timing. So if you are applying for a graduate role, but you're not, graduating for another year, then we wouldn't consider you, because we're looking for, people to start kind of in the immediate future. So in the next 6 months, say. Same for an internship. If you've already graduated a year ago, we won't consider you for an internship. It's specifically in certain countries where we do have restrictions to only consider students or recent graduates. So that would be the first thing. We also look at languages or specific skill sets. So as mentioned, if local language is needed, we look that you have that and at a good enough level. If there's specific tech skills, so even, if we request Excel skills to be needed for a specific role, we'll check that you have that on your CV, and we'll just check overall, just again, what kind of experience you have. So those extracurriculars, those internships, any type of work experience that you have, we will go through that. So those are kind of the first kind of buzzwords again, and then we check, as Franzi mentioned, if you've applied for other roles, if you're in a process for other roles, we tend to not process you for multiple roles, at least internally within Amazon. So you will be going through one process at a time. So that's something else that we'll check.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much. Actually, thank you to all of you for all the thorough answers, and I really hope that that everyone managed to take away at least some value out of this. I, for my part, really enjoyed it and really enjoyed talking to you. And you can be sure that I'll keep reaching out with some of our questions and maybe referring you with a person or two. So yeah, thanks again for joining us. I'm just going to very quickly share my screen one more time, because after all, this is the Kibo launch event, and we did promise a limited time offer. So what we did was only available for 1 week now. We have our yearly subscription where you can actually get a 3-month free trial. And I do have to say on the side, yes, you can still cancel at any point. So you could theoretically be subscribed for 2 months and 30 days and then still cancel. Hopefully you forget, so we earn some money, but yeah, that is possible. And for the monthly one, there's a 1-month free trial. So this offer is only possible for 1 week now as an introductory, and after that we are going back to our normal prices. So yeah, if you were inspired by this conversation and you want to support us in our first couple of steps with our first version of the Kibo app, then please do go to the app and Play Store to download it. And for the rest, I would like to say thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I hope you had fun, and yeah, I'm sure I'll see some of you at some point throughout the next couple of years. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, by email, and in the closing email, I'm also going to include some of the contact details of us in case you want to reach out with any further questions. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Ronan, for great hosting and for inviting me here. It was really great pleasure and great questions, everyone.
Yeah, same from my side. Thank you very much. It was really a lot of fun.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Great. Okay, thanks a lot, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.